Oh, boys and girls, I have failed again. Why isn't anything easy to do? Why are all these DIY tasks that one has to do throughout one's life so difficult? Please, will you tell me? Yes, on the last show and the one before, I told you I had attempted 2 Butch things. Well, actually, now that I've worked it out in my own tiny small mind, it is 3 Butch things I have tried. The second, you've already heard the first Butch thing on the last show. What do you mean you missed it? Oh, well, I'm not going to tell you again, dear. No, I've told you before. This programme is like an ongoing story. It's like War and Peace, but on a much, much longer scale. It really is. Don't miss an episode because you could miss important pieces of information. How do you know, right, that on the last show, I didn't give away an all-expenses-paid visit from anywhere in the world here to the Mirrorball Studios? Incidentally, I've got a new lamp. Well, it's not actually a new lamp. I keep looking around my house for things to put in the background. I know those of you listening on the radio can't see, but those of you watching on the video, I always try and find something new to put behind me. And today, I have a very nice blue lamp. Oh, don't worry, there is an energy-saving bulb in that one, darling. We don't like to pay too much to the utilities, do we? Anyway, so Butch thing number 2. Recently, on my bicycle, I have noticed difficulty in changing from gear 2 to gear 3. Now, on a bike, those of you that are cyclists, then my heart goes out to you. 100 brownie points for being a cyclist and helping us hold on to what little resources the earth has. Eh? Is that why you're doing it? Or do you just not like to give the oil companies that money? You don't, do you? Me neither. Anyway, on the bike, of course, I have a 15 gears on my bike. So there's 1, 2, 3 on one side of the handlebar. Okay, so you kind of go 1 on one side of the handlebar, and on the other side you would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then to go up further, you go to 2 on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, 1, 2, 3. And you know what I mean. Cyclists would know. Joy, you don't need to know this. All right, my darling? Just assume... I don't know if you've ever been on a bike, have you, Joy? My, No, I'm not going to say that one. No, I just stopped myself then. It wasn't about you, Joy. It was about someone else, and I thought they might be offended. So I'm... it did involve my sister. But I thought I wouldn't say that one. Because she doesn't go on bikes, dear. Oh, no. Mind you, she has started walking recently. I'm very impressed with my sister because she's now got that little dog, Barney, and she walks that dog. Oh, and she loves it. And sis, we love you too. Anyway, back to the story. So, I'm on my bike, and I couldn't get from 2 to 3, and I noticed the cog at the back wasn't moving. And I had a quick look, and I don't know how to adjust these things, dear. But I did have a go, but I noticed the cable was all frayed at that end, and one must bear in mind, it's probably about 14 years old, this bike now. No, I'm not buying a new one. There's nothing wrong with it, dear. See, you're doing it again, aren't you? You must buy new things every 2 years. That's why we're all in so much trouble. You don't need to buy things every few years. Although the government here in the UK are trying, they're trying to force me to spend my money. They are. They're talking about, I don't know if it's already happened, but one of the things they're talking about here in the UK is reducing VAT. Now, that is a tax, all right? And it is on so-called luxury items. Although how anything in my home is a luxury item is beyond me, dear. It is all necessary. My computer I desperately need. What? I wouldn't be able to talk to you without this, would I? Huh? Wouldn't be able to. My shirts, specially purchased for the programme on eBay for about £5. They are all VAT. You have to pay VAT on them all. One of the things the idea is come up to kickstart the economy, Although, quite honestly, the way he walks around, Gordon Brown, someone wants to kickstart him. Oh, he's so slow. He walks, I don't know if it's his age or what, dear. He walks around like a Teletubby. He does. He walks around like a Teletubby. In fact, at any moment now, if you're a Teletubby knower, if you know about the that's a good word, isn't it? A knower. If you know the Teletubbies, you will know one of them. Oh, they've all got TV screens, and any minute now, I expect a TV screen to appear on the front of Gordon Brown's suit. I mean, he's trying to kickstart the. Actually, I didn't like him at all, but I've kind of warmed to him. I don't know why. But he's not bothered what people say about him, is he? He just carries on with the job, dear. Well, it's a bit like this. We carry on with the job. We don't worry what people say. And, I'm getting right off the blooming subject now, aren't I? One of the ways he's going to kickstart the economy is to reduce VAT, which is a tax here, on luxury items. Luxury, my foot. Like televisions, clothes. I think it's on clothes, I'm not sure. By 2.5%. Now, let's get this right. 2.5%. So for every £1 that an item costs, you will save 2.5 pence. For every £10 that an item costs, you will save 25 pence. So I'm kind of wondering in my mind how this is going to make people spend more money, knowing that they will save 25 pence for every £10. Of course, on very expensive items, I suppose, like, well, I mean, a plasma. If you spent £1,000, you would save £25, wouldn't you? I suppose. Even then, it doesn't seem, to me, an awful lot of money to be saving. 25 quid when you're spending 1,000. However, if it came to something large, like a car, £10,000, say, you'd then be saving £250. But would that make any difference to you? Because it certainly wouldn't to me. 2.5%. He's having a laugh, isn't he? And I honestly don't think that's going to make a blind bit of difference. It's going to cost them a fortune. What do you think? Any comments about that? Do let us know. Chris at unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Chris at unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Now, just going back a little bit there to where I was saying Gordon Brown just goes on and doesn't worry about what other people say. I was listening to a very good friend of the programme, Joe, from AmericanTalkUSA.com. He does his own podcast. I think, what was I listening to? I think podcast number 71 in a car the other day. All right, remember, if you want to try out his podcast, it's very different to mine. More of an informative show. It's AmericanTalkUSA.com. And he was saying quite a number of weeks ago, I think about 40 weeks ago, he entered his podcast in some, like, competition type thing. And the judges, cut a long story short, which I'm not known for doing, as you know, the judges of this competition apparently absolutely slated his podcast. And this bothered him. Joe, I, too, have been at the end of the occasional email from so-called professionals saying, I always remember one that says I was a disgrace to the broadcasting community. I tell you what I think about that, Joe. And there's a great guy who runs a station in Slovakia that actually play out this show on the satellite. His name's Eric. He's a radio person, but he doesn't think like other radio people think, or indeed perhaps podcasters. The one thing, I don't know if you're listening to this, Eric, the one thing I will pull you up about, okay, is a long time ago when podcasting first started, you said to me you didn't think it would take off, and it did. Podcasting took off. Eric's a great bloke, he really is. And I would say to you, Joe, make your shows for the audience, not for podcast or radio people. So-called professionals who think everything needs to be done a certain way. I find your podcast, especially the ones about Peru, they were fantastic. I was fully aware of just how long something like that takes to actually go somewhere and have so many little snippets of audio, and what order do you put them in, and it's very, very difficult. You must have spent hours doing that. Joe, when a so-called professional, I know it's hard, but you've got listeners, you've got people listening to your show. Don't worry about it. We call it the public vote. Now, Joe, I'm going to give you another example here. I don't know if you're aware, but we have a programme here called Strictly Come Dancing. In this show, there are 4 judges and people battling it out to be the best ballroom dancers. Recently, one of the... and these people are, I think, I don't know. I think half of them are celebrities. Are they all celebrities? I'll be honest, I've never watched the programme, but I get the news, of course. One of the people dancing was a journalist. What was his name now? I think it was John. I'm sure it was John. Was it John Snow? John something. Oh, hang on a minute. Let me just quickly look this up for you. Oh, there it is. Strictly Come Dancing. I do like that. The Google search now brings up all these different suggestions now, doesn't it? I've still got this sore throat, you know. It's awful. Contestants. Here we are. 1 second. Let's find this now. Contestants. Where are they now? And I'll find out his name. Oh, there's a picture of him now. Where is it now? There it is. John Sargent. That's it. John Sargent. Okay? He was a journalist. Now, this entirely relates to what was going through your mind when those judges slated your podcast. John Sargent was not the best dancer on that programme. In fact, many people say he was close to being the worst. However, the audience loved him. Now, the way this programme worked was everyone would do some dance. All the partners, they'd do their dance. The judges would pass comment and give their votes. But then someone was voted out by the audience, not the judges. And for some reason, John Sargent became enormously popular with the public. Millions and millions of people voted for John Sargent, and the judges hated it. They absolutely hated it. Now, as I say, I haven't actually seen the programme. I just read the bits and pieces that went on. I mean, this made front page of the newspapers. It always amazes me how something like that can make the front page of a newspaper when there are people dying and starving all over the world. But there you go. I mean, that's it, isn't it? Weeks went by, and still they were voting for John Sargent and not the other dancers who were fantastic. He had the popularity vote. This week, he actually resigned from the show himself because he felt that the joke on everyone else had gone a bit too far. The public loved him. The judges were fuming. Absolutely fuming. And I love it. Because the little man won. Now, Joe, you have people who listen to your show. I will admit I'm not a regular listener. I don't have the time to listen to everything that I want to do. Or what I find I'm doing now, Joe, and I don't know about you, I do download a lot of different podcasts, a lot of the BBC ones I like. I've mentioned before, Dr. Carl on Triple J. I'd never miss that one. I love that. And also Dr. Carl on Radio 5 Live and lots of other different podcasts. Your one is always on there. So is Ross P's one and James Dean's and Madam Mary's. I don't always get time to listen, and I find them building up, and then sometimes I write, okay, delete and start again. You know, just the way it is. But Joe, you have people that listen. Why on earth are you worried about judges? Don't worry about them. Don't worry about them. Okay? Make the show for your listeners, not for other radio people, so to speak. We are in, I think, a very privileged position to be able to do almost exactly as we want on these shows. There's no one telling us what to do. As long as you use common sense. The last thing I'd ever want to do is upset anyone with anything I've said. It's the last thing I'd want to do. And if you just use common sense, everything will be fine. And you do. Your shows are good. Don't listen to too many people. Do them as you see fit. And remember, make your radio shows for your listeners, not for people supposedly who think they're at the top. Okay? Just do what you do, and you'll build your audience like that. Audiences go up and down all the time. They go up. Sometimes you might have, I don't know, so hundreds of people listening. And then you might just have 10 people listening, but it doesn't matter. Even if just one person is being entertained by your show, just one, wasn't it worth doing? That you might have made them a bit happier, taken their mind off something. Look at that lovely email I got from the lady in Spain on the last show. The lady with her husband in hospital. He'd had an open heart, or some sort of heart surgery, I think it was. And she wrote to me telling me that this show helped her through those times, took her mind off it. How much does that mean to me to get an email like that? Huh? So, Joe, carry on doing your show as you see fit. Don't be sending it into competitions or anything like that unless I'm running them. Actually, I have been asked by an internet radio station to possibly in the new year host a podcasting wars type competition. And that would consist of people sending in their competitions. Similar to what you had, there would be like 4 judges, I think, and they would then listen to your podcast and talk about it, literally, sometimes perhaps even rip it apart. I would be the host of that. I, of course, am likely to be on the side of the podcasters at all times, because I can't be doing anything that is said nasty about people. I really can't stand that. I can't stand that. And there's far too much in this world of people speaking their own minds, I think. Probably including me, as you're hearing. You know the sort. There's a particular girl. We've got a programme here as well at the moment called I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And there's a particular girl on there called I think her name was, well, she's a blonde girl. And she's got very big front. You know what I mean? Okay, she's got a very big front. And she is, don't get me wrong, she is very, very pretty and good looking. But her personality stinks. It's me, me, me. She has got no concern about anyone else, and she has to keep sticking her mouth in all the time. I can't stand her. Can't bear looking at her on the telly anymore. You see? Never, ever judge a book by its cover. Nice on the outside, you open the cover, and there's a bubbling green mess in there that doesn't seem to bother about anyone else. And it's a horrible way to be like that. But you're not like that, Joe. You do care about people. You care about your listeners. And that's all you've got to worry about, your listeners. Don't worry about other radio people. All right, my darling? There we are. So we had a bit of a chat there. Oh, I haven't finished telling you about the bike, have I? God's sake. Anyway, so back to the bike story. So I had a look at this bike. I started screwing things and nothing I don't know. What are all these screws for on the bike? I can't understand them. All I remember being told once by another cyclist shop, I think it was, that you really shouldn't adjust those screws that are on the derailleur gear things at the back. There's 2 screws. And I was screwing these up and screwing them down, and it weren't making a blind bit of difference. So in the end, I took it down to the bike shop, and there's a very, very good bike shop in Bracknell. It's actually in the town centre. It's not Halford's. It's another one. And anyway, there's an older bloke. I wouldn't say an old bloke, but an older bloke, probably about 40, who does all the bike repairs. And he's very good. You never have to book it in. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing for the business, actually. You know, if you can't book it in, presumably they're not that busy. But I go there and I just cycle down there and I push it in. Oh, can you fix this for me? Yeah, what's up, mate? I say, well, I've looked at this cable. I think it actually needs a new cable because it's frayed at the end. So he had a look. He said, yep, well, that needs replacing. And I said, the brakes as well are looking rather thin. Can you do those as well? And can I have a new red light? Because I didn't have a red light on the back of my bike. On the other hand, I don't do a lot of night cycling, so it doesn't matter too much. And so he said, yep, okay. He says, come back in an hour and a half, it'll be ready. I said, thank you very much. So I walked around the town centre and went back, and it was all done. And as I say, he'd put a new gear cable on, 4 new brakes, 2 back and 2 front. He'd adjusted the brakes, obviously, and all the gears so that they change up and down correctly, which indeed they do now. And what was the other thing? Oh, and a red light on the back. £39 for that. So very pleased. There we are. So that's another little repair done. 2 Butch things I have attempted and failed at. But I did try. You can't say I didn't try. Innit? Eh? Yes, I tried. One more Butch thing I did last week. What was that? You'll have to wait till the next show for that, my darlings. There isn't time to tell you. I'm hooking you in. Okay. All right, I shall tell you the final Butch. Well, there might be another thing this week. I hope not. Everything's going wrong, dear. Cupboards off the wall. Bike chains not changing gear. And not till the next show. Okay? Right, let's go to the emails then. It would seem you particularly enjoyed my chat with Ross P. on the phone 2 shows ago. And I have to say, I really enjoyed it as well. Talked to Ross for a whole hour, didn't we? First of all, Joe from AmericanTalkUSA.com says, you guys should chat more often. Great show. The best fast-paced hour of broadcast excellence anywhere on the planet. Good God. Did you think so? I really enjoyed talking to old Ross on the phone there. He says, and in answer to the question, because Brenda is the nutritional expert that Joe has on AmericanTalkUSA.com. And one of the questions I wanted to ask Brenda was, how can we have healthy nutritional chips? I said, would it be a good idea to crush up a vitamin tablet and put it on the chips like salt and pepper? And Joe says, mix your crushed vitamins with sea salt for maximum effect. Have a fantastic week. And that's from Joe. Thank you, Joe. Also, Doug in Akeley, who I gather is on a little bit of a holiday. I think you're halfway through your holiday, aren't you, Doug? Who says, "Thanks, Chris. The interview with Ross P was great. It's too bad the video went wrong." Yeah, sorry about that. We lost the video halfway through, about the third of the way through last time, didn't we? Spent most of Friday in Marshalltown shopping, and all time I've only seen two cute guys. Well, we'll just take around a photograph of me, Doug. Thank you, Doug and Akeley. Oh, put that down there. And talking of Ross P, here he is writing, and he says, "I thought we'd only talked for about 20 minutes until I looked at the time." He said, "Chris, did you know, I bet you didn't know, I was dying to go to the toilet for about 30 minutes of that show from that week with you." Well, you should have said. Why didn't you say I would have let you go to the toilet? As long as you put your hand up first. I can't bear bad manners. People just getting up and going to the toilet when they feel like it. Where will it all end, dear? Honestly. Right, onward. I'm hoping to get the information in from Susan today. The last little piece about Dallas is coming up, all right? First of all, let's say hello to Mark S. Hello, Mark. He's the one that makes the calendar. I don't know if... Oh, yes, you can. If you're watching the show, there's a calendar behind me. And it's got, like, green... Can you see that green? I'm trying to look at the screen. It's, like, got 8 little green pictures, or 7 green pictures and a white one. That's a calendar made by Mark. And he's got his own website. You can find that at autumnlake.com. autumnlake.com. By the way, have I said hello today? Did I tell you who I was and what you're listening to? I didn't, did I? We're halfway through the show and I haven't even told you my name. Greetings and felicitations to you all. My name's Chris Reardon. This is our 3 times a week talk show, United Kingdom Talk. There's a main website. That's at unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. And you can join in by email as well. The email address is chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Mark writes, "Ha! You mentioned Space 1999. Da 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 da." Oh no, that's not the music, is it? What was that? That was Blake 7, wasn't it? Space 1999. How does that music go? Down, 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 da 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 da. That's the one, isn't it? With that electric guitar going in the background. Yes, great. You mentioned Space 1999, which was always my favourite sci-fi show, right up there with Doctor Who. Oh, I've got Doctor Who. One minute. We got Doctor Who. Yes. Oh. Where is it now? Oh, we got Doctor Who. We love it. We love Doctor Who, yes. Many years ago, Mark says, it would air on a station out of Boston. That's in the States. This was way back before video cassette recorders were in every home, so you couldn't tape it. I remember those days. If a show was on at 7 o'clock, you had to be there at 7 o'clock to watch it. But it was nice, wasn't it? Because, of course, the entire family would get together to watch a programme. Now it's all in bits and pieces. It's split us all up, dear. Not that there's anyone here to split up. He says, you watched it that week or you missed it. And if you missed it, you had to wait until the episodes recycled and re-aired. We'd watched an episode of Star Trek, that is, of course, the real one, with Captain Kirk, on one station, switch over to Space 1999, and then watch another Star Trek, which aired after it. We never had that here in the UK. You see, we only had 3 channels then. And they all had different programmes, yes. Now with cable and DVD, you can watch shows whenever. And I wonder if that's why so many people maybe don't enjoy television anymore as much as they used to back when I was a kid. It's probably also why families don't watch shows together like they used to. It is a great shame, isn't it, really? I think certainly when I was little, we'd all gather around the television, and there was only one television in the house. It was in the living room. And is it really a step forward to be able to buy everyone in the house a television? I mean, my sister's house, for example, there is a very large television in the living room. My sister has a television in the bedroom. My nephew and his girlfriend have a television in their room, and the little nephew has a television in his room. And sometimes they all watch different things, and instead of sitting there with your family, you're on your own. Is that a good thing? I don't think it is. On the other hand, of course, there's no more rows over who will watch that. Or who will watch what, rather. Maybe Dad wants to watch the football. Mum wants to watch the cookery programme. Although, how on earth anyone can stand there and watch those, or sit there and watch those dreadful cookery programmes, I don't know. God, my God, that's boring television. It's boring television, that cookery programmes, isn't it? I think it is. In 1999, Mark says, I had the pleasure to attend the Breakaway Convention in Los Angeles, where many of the stars from the show attended. What, you mean 1999, yes? Space 1999, yeah. Barry Morse, who died a few years ago, was very interesting to listen to, as were the rest of the cast that attended. One weird thing that happened to me was when I was in the toilets. Oh, I don't know if I want to read any more of this. What are you going to say? Oh, I'm worried now. Because I didn't read this email before. Oh, let me just peer down. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. I wonder what you were going to say then. Dear me. Let's start again. One weird thing that happened to me was while I was in the toilets, and Anton Phillips, who played Dr. Russell's assistant, Dr. Matthias, or is it Matthias, came in at the time. So there I am, standing at the facilities, shall we say, with the cast, with one of the cast of my favourite TV shows ever for years, standing right there next to me. He says, I mean, what do you say? I opted not to say anything because, well, what do you say? Weird. Oh, dear. You are funny, Mark. He says, anyway, on my show last week, I was reading out of an old cookbook I got from 1930. It was put out by a Canadian corn syrup manufacturer and was full of recipes calling for their products. It also had advice for housewives, such as diets for children that contained an awful lot of corn syrup. Well, it would do, wouldn't it, if they're selling the stuff? It was interesting to see how they viewed domestic staff and what not back then. Yeah. Several recipes call for something called golden syrup, which I've never seen here in the US. Oh, yes, we have that here. Golden syrup comes in a, if I remember rightly, a very lovely coloured green tin. It's like a dark racing green. Beautiful colour tin. Who makes it? Oh. Might be, I don't know, is it Tate and Lyle make golden syrup? I'm not sure. But I guess it's still available in the UK. Yes, it is. So you may know what it is. I assume it's like honey or pancake syrup, but made from corn. And then there's treacle. What is that anyway? Is it like molasses? I know it's something like that, sweet and syrupy. Well, it is. I suppose it is a treacle, really. Treacle syrup. It's well, it's just like a syrup, like a thick, sticky syrup. God knows how much sugar there is in it, dear. Do you have any old cookbooks you enjoy? Yes, I have a Delia Smith cookbook. And it's got basic things in there. I don't like anything fancy at all, Mark. Oh, God, no. I mean, The thought of going to a posh restaurant fills me with horror. It really does. Doesn't do anything for me at all. I'm not interested in sitting there and trying to pick my way through quail's eggs and God knows what else, and beef done in all sorts of stuff that tastes vile, and people trying to be clever with cheese and all that. If you're going to give me a bit of cheese, I'll have a nice piece of strong cheddar. That'll do me. I don't want any of that French rubbish. Oh, it's vile. Have you ever had some of that French cheese, brie and all that? Oh, it's the most vile stuff. And it stinks. That French cheese stinks to high heaven. Don't say it doesn't, because it does. It's horrible stuff. Oh, God. No, I do like my food fairly plain. I don't mind a bit of chilli. Like to have a little bit of chilli and stuff. I like a chili con carne. That's nice. Mark says, with health information and diets changing and all, sometimes the old cookbooks are just fun to read, even if you never make anything from them. So thanks for that, Mark. Lovely to hear from you, sir. It really is. My calendar's running out, by the way. Can I have another one? Are you doing them for next year? I do hope so. I've nothing to put my dates down on. Thank you, Mark. Right, let's see. Where are we going now? Matty. Matty in Tasmania, Australia, wants to know, what do I like about Australia and where would I like to live? Because I've mentioned many times before, I love Australia, and if I was ever offered a job there, it's very likely I would take it and I'd be off. I love the weather. That's one of the things, Matty. Okay, I love the weather in Australia. Doesn't get too cold. It is a much slower pace of life. I like that very much. And I also like the fact that it's not too overpopulated, especially up north. You say, where would I like to live? I like it very much in Queensland. Although I gather it gets extremely hot there in summer. I think Queensland is a beautiful place. Full, of course, of many dangerous animals. The spiders, the snakes, the crocodiles. See, perhaps man was never supposed to live up there with all those creatures in there. But nevertheless, I think Queensland, and in particular the Daintree rainforest, is a very, very beautiful place. So that's where I'd like to live. Queensland, ideally. But even Sydney, I mean, the last time I was there, I was quite amused by what my uncle, because my cousin. You see, my cousin lives there. He's in Sydney, the suburbs of Sydney, and what he refers to as the rush hour in Sydney kind of goes on for about half an hour. Okay, the rush hour in London goes on for about 2 hours. In fact, it's most of the day. It's vile. It's vile driving around London during the daytime. Yes, I love Australia very much. I think you're very lucky to be living in such a place. My ideal place to live would be somewhere in the middle of nowhere, I think, with someone. It's a bit harder when you're on your own, of course. I suppose you need people around you. I mean, if anything was to happen to me, I've still got my neighbours. But if I had someone, I'd ideally live in the middle of nowhere where there's not too many people around. And it's nice and peaceful and quiet. I can't stand noise all the time. Here, where I live, there's rarely music on in the house. I'm actually a quiet... Believe it or not, I'm a quiet person, Matty. All right, so hope that answers your questions there. And he also wanted to know, what do I like about Britain? That's probably a more difficult question, actually, because if you live somewhere, you just take everything for granted, don't you? So I don't know. Not sure what I like about where I live. It's okay here. It's expensive here. It's very expensive here. I certainly don't like the violence that we keep hearing about now in the newspapers. People being stabbed in London, that sort of thing. Okay, we're not talking of hundreds of people, but nevertheless, it does seem to happen occasionally. Never happened 20 years ago, or at least we never heard about it. So there's something I don't like. I don't like the traffic. I hate the traffic. I don't like the fact that there are so many people in certain areas now, and it's very difficult to move around. It's a real effort to move around. I particularly don't like speed cameras all over the place. And not just speed cameras, but cameras. I don't like being watched everywhere. And I'm sick to death of these people who tell me, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, you've got nothing to worry about. Yes, I have. I don't want to be watched. I don't want to be watched everywhere. People would say, why are you doing this show? Different thing altogether. I know you're watching me or listening. Different thing. I choose to let you watch or listen, yes? Agreed? But when I'm out in the street, I don't want all these people watching. And how do you know who's watching? One of the funniest things well, it's not funny, it's very sad, is here in the UK, if you dare to take a camera to your child or your nephew or whatever, a young person's school, and you start snapping away, you'll get a teacher come over and say, who are you taking pictures of? And they assume automatically that you're a pervert. Now, this hasn't happened to me, but I've seen many times in the papers where something like that has happened. Maybe someone's granddad or something like that has started taking pictures. Teacher, who are you taking? You're not allowed to take pictures of the children. How ridiculous that sounds when you know that the moment they walk out the school, there's all these security cameras anywhere. And don't be telling me there aren't any security officers anywhere that aren't pervs sitting there watching those tellies. You know what I mean? I don't need to go into it. How ridiculous that you've got that rule there and that rule there, where anyone seems to be able to set up a camera anywhere and watch people. I hate it. So you said, what do I hate about you? What do I love? I haven't found anything yet. Well, I live here. I'm okay, you know. There's quite a few things I hate about it. Really is. There you go, Matty. All right, I hope that answers your questions there. How are we doing on time? Let's see. Right, I think we best do the Dallas story. This a nicely round up, because we've been talking about the Dallas reunion, haven't we, over the last few shows. And here is the rest of the Dallas story from Susan, our correspondent out there in Dallas. Here, James Dean from matineeshow.co.uk. He hasn't got a correspondent in Dallas, has he? Oh, no! She's not coming over to you, this one, dear. You're not having this one as well. He must sit there picking through my show, looking for more listeners to attract. That's what's going on. Chris Reardon's shattered dreams. That's what it is, James. Susan writes, hi, Chris. I'm now only getting a chance to write and tell you what happened at the reunion. As you know, I purchased my ticket at least 6 weeks before the event. However, all the ticket agent gave me was a sheet of paper with my confirmation number on it and a receipt that I had paid. Virtually all the tickets that had to be picked up on the day of the reunion. Virtually all the tickets had to be picked up on the day of the reunion. I would say about 30% of the people attending the reunion had come down all the way from Canada. There were also several from England and Ireland. We like the Irish. We love the Irish. Snowdrops and daffodils. Oh, we like Dana, dear. Have I got that here? Hang on a minute. Dana. Let's have a bit of Ireland, shall we? We love Ireland. Do you know, I don't think I've got any viewers or listeners at all in Ireland, or indeed Northern Ireland. Is that right? If you let me find this Dana. Where are you, Dana? Oh, she's not on here. I thought that was on here. Oh, how disappointing. Not on there. Never mind. Doesn't matter. Have we got any listeners in Ireland or Northern Ireland? Do let me know. chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk is my email address. She said, even these people from England and Ireland and Canada could not get their tickets mailed to them. The reunion was supposed to start at 5 p.m. Now even that, Susan, sounds dodgy to me. That sounds ever so late, doesn't it to you? Something like that should be starting surely at 12 in the afternoon. Anyway, the tickets could be picked up at noon that day. Even though I had already toured the house, we were supposed to receive a free tour with our ticket purchase. So I arrived at Southfork at 11:30 that morning. However, the promoter of this event had all the tickets. He did not show up until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. When he did arrive, he told us to please be patient since none of the tickets had been sorted as to sections and prices. He had also told us all the ticket agents and staff for the event were volunteers from the local college. When it was finally my turn in line to receive my ticket, I was told there was no envelope with my name on it. Thankfully, I had brought my confirmation sheet with me. They finally ended up just giving me a ticket out from a small box that they had on the counter. Oh God, this is just so unprofessionally run, isn't it? This upset me because the earlier you purchase your tickets, the better your seating was supposed to be. After receiving my ticket, we were told that we could not just go through the metal detectors until 4 o'clock. So remember, she got there at 11:30. With it already being 2 o'clock, most of us just decided to hang around outside. By then, we had already been told that we could not tour the house as it was closed for security reasons since the cast would be using it. I was talking to the Canadian ladies that had been in line with me. They asked me if there was a gift shop on the premises. I told them I would walk them over to where it was since it was on the other side of the house. No one stopped us from walking past the house and past the building where the metal detectors were located. And as there was about 30 other people walking down the sidewalk, we just joined the herd. There were 2 tables set up on the sidewalk. One was to register the people who were going to drink alcohol and get a wristband. And so we did this. Then a man came over to me and asked if I had received my gift bag yet. I said no, and he handed me this vinyl bag. Okay? That's always very exciting when they give you a gift bag and you kind of wonder what's inside it, don't you? We go on. The dining tables had already been set up for later. So I asked a staff member if I could go into my section and find out where my seat was located, as all our tickets had a table number. She told me I could. The Canadian ladies went on to the gift shop. I had figured out that my seat would be located right at the back since they gave me a leftover ticket. But as I proceeded down the row of table numbers, I was getting closer and closer to the front. My table number was 97. I finally ended up the front rows and was by then very excited to know that this had to be where my table was located. But my excitement soon turned to anger as I discovered that the table numbers in this section started with 101 and went up to 150. There was no table number 97. I went and asked one of the volunteer staff members about my table. She walked me over to the people in the $1,000 VIP section and told me that this is where I belonged. They hadn't got a clue what they're doing, had they, eh? I went and told another staff person I could not find my table. It just so happened that about 30 people in the VIP section did not have a table either. I found out later that the reason they thought I belonged in this section was because of the silver gift bag I'd been given. This was only supposed to have been given out to $1,000 ticket holders. So I stayed and mingled until I decided I wanted to find out about the eating arrangements since I didn't have a table. The only cast member that ever showed up in this section was Steve Cannelly. Is he the one that played Ray Krebs, I think? Is it Cannelly? I think that's right. He was very friendly and mingled for about 2 hours. I went back up to where my table was supposed to be located. I went back up to where my table was supposed to be located and found another staff member to ask where I would be sitting. She told me that they had decided to just have open seating and just sit wherever I wanted. So I found a seat on the first row and sat down. The bedlam that broke loose about an hour later was better than any argument you ever saw on Dallas. This crook that put on this event had intentionally sold at least 1,000 more tickets than he had seats. All the tables seated 10 people. A lot of companies had purchased whole tables for their clients and staff, only to find out that people were now sitting at the tables their tickets had marked as theirs. Shouting matches were erupting all over the place. The staff had not come over the loudspeaker and announced open seating. They just told whoever came up and asked them when they couldn't find their seat. This combined by the fact that it had been a hot afternoon and only the bars were set up earlier that day. What's that? This combined by the fact that it had been a hot afternoon and the only bars that were set up were there earlier in the day. Dreadful. Dreadful way to carry on, innit, eh? The staff asked everyone to please take their seats for dinner at 5:30. It was a buffet. However, they did not let the staff serving dinner until the show began at 7 o'clock. So sitting there for an hour and a half waiting for this meal to arrive. That's dreadful. Oh yes, they did let the bar serve drinks though. Of course. I bet you had to pay for those though, didn't you? The Canadian ladies that I'd met earlier had sat at my table. They were upset that they hadn't got to tour the house. But once the show began, then you were allowed to tour it. I said that since the show would be going on for at least a couple more hours, that maybe they ought to tour the house. The show was filmed anyway and will be for sale later on. They might not ever get a chance to see the inside of the house again. To get in, we still had to go in through the front door. That is not the door by the swimming pool, but it's on the other side. After touring the house, we had to go back out the front door. That is when we discovered that virtually everyone that had purchased tickets for this side had disappeared and gone over to the other side where the swimming pool was to watch the show. The whole back of the stage had only about 30 people standing around, and all the cast were there signing autographs for them and just hanging around talking. The stage was only about 4 feet off the ground. The stage had tables set up close to the rail so that when the cast members that weren't talking to the audience had a place to sit. When the auction of props from the show was going on, all but a few members of the cast were sitting down or standing at the rail talking to us. We were really lucked out. Patrick Duffy, Linda Gray, Charlene Tilton and Steve Cannelly were extremely friendly and talkative. You were right, Chris. In my earlier email, I meant Steve Kennelly was friendly and called him Ken Kennelly, but actually Ken Kircheville. Oh, I'm getting confused with these names now, dear. Cliff Barnes was there, but did not talk to any of us. Neither did Mary Crosby. Oh, really? Well, funny you should say that. I saw an interview with Ken Kircheville on a BBC News programme while I were doing this, and he was a dreadful person to interview, I thought. He didn't come across as a friendly person at all. Isn't that funny? But she says, Mary Crosby just looks like she did on the show. She was the one who shot JR. She is still very skinny and has long, dark hair. Yeah. Yeah, I remember there was an interview also. They did an interview with Larry Hagman as well. And Patrick Duffy, I saw an interview with him. And they came across on the television as really friendly, nice people. But when they, of course, interviewed Ken Kircheville, he just didn't come across at all as being friendly or nice or anything. Funny, really, isn't it? Now, so what was in those bags? That's the question. What was in those bags? You remember? Right at the beginning of that little piece, Susan was saying they were given kind of little gift bags. Hers was a silver one, which was only supposed to be given to the people who'd spent $1,000 a ticket. And what do you think was in that bag? Susan goes on to say, but not in this show. That will be in the next show, boys and girls, because we've run out of time. You see, I've hooked you in again, haven't I? You're going to be wondering what was given to Susan in that little silver bag. It'll be in the next show. Don't forget, you can always join in by email. It's chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Apologies if your emails take a few shows to come up, but it's quite busy at the moment, all right? Thanks for watching and listening. From myself, Chris Reardon, I'll see you on the next show. Bye-bye now.